The documentaries, fictional stories, and poems on this channel contain mature themes including psychological horror, violence, death, self-harm, mental health crises, and other disturbing subject matter. If you're sensitive to dark content, this may not be for you. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Greetings, Night Stalkers. I am the Howlerist. Tonight's tale crawls from the shadows where memory decays and madness takes root. A story of twisted devotion where love becomes a weapon, and forgetting is the cruelest lie of all. If you dare to walk this dark path with me, do join my pack. Subscribe, and let me share with you some of the darkest corners of my imagination. In the meantime, this is Recall's Revenge. Chapter 1. Smoke and Mirrors. Just a few short years ago, Jenny and her husband Greg embarked on a joyful journey across the country in a new RV. This adventure had been a long-time dream of theirs, and as soon as they reached the point of retirement, they decided to rent out their house and set off into the horizon to explore. However, not too far into their travels, Greg began to notice a series of changes in Jenny. Initially, she began forgetting simple things, like their daughter's phone number, a number she had dialed almost daily since Ellie had moved out of home 5 years prior. She was constantly inquiring about Thomas, the cat who had been a beloved pet but had passed away over 11 years ago. Greg chose to overlook these minor lapses in memory until one morning when he returned from the store to find Jenny seated on the floor, smoke billowing from inside the RV. Upon extinguishing the flames, he realized that Jenny had set the oven to high and placed a box of frozen pies inside. After the flames had been extinguished, Jenny tearfully confessed to Greg that she had been attempting to prepare a special meal for him upon his return from a job in the mines. As he gazed into his wife's beautiful blue eyes, he could now clearly see the unmistakable signs of confusion, and he knew that something was terribly wrong. Following months of attending numerous medical appointments and undergoing evaluations, Jenny received a diagnosis of moderate-stage dementia. In an instant, their aspirations of a nomadic lifestyle were abruptly cut short. The only solace was their decision to rent out their house instead of selling it. Upon returning to their lovely 2-story home, Greg dedicated himself to the task of simplifying Jenny's life. Simultaneously, he embarked on an extensive quest for knowledge about this dreadful disease and how to provide the best possible care for his wife as her symptoms continued to deteriorate. He initiated the process by addressing the basics, such as adding labels to the cupboards and drawers. Furthermore, he replaced the toilet seat with a black one, as he had learned that this could serve as a helpful cue for individuals dealing with dementia. Taking on the cooking responsibilities himself, he entrusted Jenny with smaller tasks like rinsing the vegetables or assisting with drying the dishes. Through his extensive research, he had come to understand the significance of ensuring that his wife maintained a sense of usefulness and independence, rather than merely taking over all tasks on her behalf. As Jenny's condition continued to deteriorate, Greg found it increasingly challenging to manage everything on his own, especially as his anxiety about leaving her unattended for necessary errands began to mount. Late one evening, after Jenny had gone to bed, Greg decided to reach out to Ellie to provide an update on recent developments. The composure in Ellie's voice during their conversation suddenly unleashed all of Greg's pent-up emotions. Overwhelmed, he broke down. "I just don't know how much longer I can endure this, Ellie. I love your mother immensely, and I won't give up, but I am utterly exhausted," he confessed. "Dad, my goodness, are you getting any sleep?" Ellie asked him with genuine concern. "Well, not much. I try to sleep lightly in case Jen wakes up disoriented in the night. A few weeks ago I woke up to find her missing. It took me some time to find her, but she was sitting on the edge of the pool with her feet in the water. I shudder to think what could have happened if I hadn't found her in time. Dad, I know you want to care for Mom, but honestly, I think you might need a little help. Listen, I might know someone who can come over and give you a break. Just a few hours here and there should give you the opportunity to clear your mind. You can go do some things for yourself. Maybe catch up with some of the boys from work that you haven't seen for a while." After much discussion, Ellie managed to persuade her father to give her suggestion a chance. Chapter 2. The Caregiver. Greg and Jenny found themselves in the kitchen, just wrapping up the task of washing the dishes when a knocking disrupted their routine. When Greg answered the door, he was met by a slender woman with striking green eyes and slightly graying auburn hair. Her smile revealed a single dimple on her right cheek. "Are you Greg?" she asked as she extended her hand. "Ah, yes," he replied, his curiosity piqued as he tried to piece together who this rather handsome woman was and how she knew his name. "Sorry, I hope I haven't caught you at a bad time. My name is Alice Parker. I received a call from your daughter. She mentioned you might be in need of some part-time care for your wife, Jenny." Greg, somewhat dazed, shook Alice's hand while making a conscious effort not to stare at her. He has always remained faithful to his beautiful wife, never entertaining thoughts of anyone else. However, there was no harm in admiring someone's looks, he reasoned. "Please forgive my manners, Alice. I'm just a little taken aback that you're here. Ellie only brought it up last night, so I wasn't expecting you so soon." "I completely understand," Alice reassured him. "It can be difficult to acknowledge that you need a little assistance. If you're not comfortable with me being here, or if this isn't a suitable time, please don't hesitate to let me know. I won't be offended." No, please. You're very welcome," Greg responded warmly. "Come on in and meet my Jenny." When the two entered the kitchen, Jenny was found gazing vacantly at the cupboards, a cup clutched in her hand. "Jen, this is Alice. She is a friend of Ellie's," Greg introduced. Jenny turned towards them with a confused glare. Alice moved closer and spoke gently. "You know what I find most challenging about doing the dishes? I can never remember where everything belongs." Alice opened the cupboard labeled cups and saucers and encouraged Jenny to place the cup on the shelf. Greg watched intently as Alice patiently guided Jenny to read the labels and connect each dish with its designated spot. Before long, all the dishes had found their places, and Alice inquired if anyone would like a tea or coffee. Jenny searched Greg's face as if seeking the answer. "Jen prefers her coffee white with 1 sugar. Don't you, my love?" "Well, that we can do. And what can we get for you, Greg?" "Tea with milk and 2 sugars. Thank you," he replied. After a few minutes, Alice had aided Jenny in preparing the hot beverages, and the three of them sat around the dining table, engaging in conversation while sipping their drinks. After they had finished, Greg asked Jenny if she would like to join him in the living room to watch her favorite shows for a while. Suddenly, her expression transformed. "You just want to get rid of me, don't you?" she shouted angrily at him. "No, my love. I just need to see Alice to the door. We always watch your shows together after dinner, remember?" Jenny gazed upward, as if searching her mind for a missing file that she had misplaced. "Come along, love. I'll get everything set up for you," he coaxed. After a brief moment, with Jenny settled on the couch, engrossed in the TV, Greg and Alice made their way to the door. "So," she began, "do you think that I might be of some help to you, Greg? Jenny is a wonderful lady, but she's grappling with her new condition, much like you are. It's a huge adjustment for the both of you. The hardest part is remembering how independent and capable Jen was just a few years ago. Now I can see the utter confusion and frustration in her eyes. It's truly heartbreaking," Greg shared, his affection and admiration for Jenny evident as Alice listened attentively. In the background, the television continued to play in the other room. But what Alice and Greg hadn't noticed is that Jenny had left the lounge room and was silently observing them from the darkened hallway. As she listened to their hushed conversation, although unable to hear every word, a sense of anger and jealousy began to well up inside her. She had never had any concrete evidence of infidelity in their relationship, but she did realize that her husband was still quite handsome, and she felt him slowly drifting away from her. As their conversation neared its end, Jenny quickly returned to her television program. "Would you like me to start tomorrow?" Alice inquired. "I can come over for a few hours in the afternoon. I am usually free most days from 1 p.m., and I can help in the evenings too if needed." "That would be wonderful, Alice. It would give me time to do a proper shopping trip instead of a rushed one." "No problem. How about starting at 2 p.m. then?" "Sounds fantastic," Greg replied, relieved more than he cared to admit. "It was a pleasure to meet you both. I'll see you tomorrow then." As she smiled, Greg once again observed the woman's face, including that charming single dimple. After Alice departed, Greg returned to the living room to rejoin Jenny on the couch. As he fixated on the television, his thoughts couldn't help but drift towards how he might make the most of his newfound free time. Perhaps he could call his friend Carl and invite him for a beer at the local pub, a routine they had cherished prior to recent events. As he contemplated this newfound liberty, Jenny observed him in silence, wondering why he seemed lost in thoughts about this woman, Alice. Why had she visited? The undercurrent of anger and resentment continued to simmer within her as they sat together. How do I broach the topic of leaving Jenny with Alice tomorrow? Greg pondered. How will Jen react? These thoughts occupied his mind as he ate their evening meal. He watched Jenny as she wrestled with her eating utensils, seeking the right words, but finding them just out of reach. Eventually, he decided not to mention it until lunchtime the next day. This would not only afford him more time to craft his words carefully, but also reduce the period during which Jenny might become upset. While he considered this, Jenny surprised him by speaking. "So, who is this Alice?" It was even more unexpected that Jenny had retained the woman's name, but her matter-of-fact tone was somewhat disconcerting. "Did you like her, Jen? It seemed like the two of you got along quite well. She was very helpful, wasn't she?" Jenny slammed her cutlery down on the table, causing Greg to jump, Her angry glare came with another round of questioning. "Who is she, Greg?" "I don't know her." "How do you know her?" she yelled. Greg realized that the conversation was indeed going to take place now, after all. "I don't know her, Jen. I just met her. The same time as you did. Ellie sent her over to meet us. She thought she might be able to spend a little time with you when I have to run errands, just so that you're not alone. What do you think?" Jenny's anger only slightly subsided with this information, but she remained filled with insecurities, and a long, awkward silence lingered. Finally, she spoke. "Well, I just don't know yet, do I?" she blurted as she fumbled with her fork to resume eating. "She is only here to help my love, so that I can have a little more time to take care of things." Greg carefully chose his words, avoiding any hint of needing a break or feeling relief about having some assistance with Jenny's full-time care. There was no more mention of Alice throughout the evening. As they lay side by side in the dark, both were deep in their own thoughts as they pretended to sleep. Chapter 3. Descent. When morning arrived, Greg slowly opened his eyes and had the distinct sensation of being observed. Rolling over, he realized that Jenny was not in bed beside him. He scanned the room and was taken aback when she suddenly spoke from a chair in the corner. "Did you have sweet dreams?" Her seemingly innocent question carried a weight of accusations. "No dreams, my love, just a bit of restless sleep. How about some breakfast, Jen? A bagel, perhaps?" The rest of the morning unfolded relatively uneventfully, with the two of them proceeding through their usual daily routines, just as they always did. After lunch, they moved to the living room to resume their customary television viewing. After a few minutes, Greg rose to prepare for his upcoming free time. "Where are you off to, Greg?" Jenny inquired as he approached the hallway. "I'm just getting ready to take care of some errands, my love. I have a few bills to pay and some groceries to pick up." "Oh, I thought you might be waiting for your pretty little lady friend to arrive." Her words halted him in his tracks. For some reason, Jenny seemed particularly alert when it came to anything related to the new caregiver. "Why would you think that, Jen?" "As I mentioned, I only met her for the first time yesterday, and she'll be here with you, so I'm not sure why you're concerned about me spending time with her. Nevertheless, there may be occasions when I have to go out. It would certainly put my mind at ease knowing you have someone with you, in case you need anything," he reasoned. Although there was no immediate reply, Jenny appeared to accept Greg's explanation of the situation, for the time being. When Alice arrived, Greg was a little flustered. "My mobile number is on the fridge, Alice, in case you need me. There are some homemade cookies for afternoon tea, and Jenny prefers her coffee. White with 1 sugar, yes, I remember," Alice interjected. "Just go, Greg. Take some time. We'll be fine. Don't worry," she reassured him. Having been preoccupied with ensuring everything was in order, Greg realized he was running late for his pub meeting with Cole. He thanked Alice, grabbed his keys, and headed out the door. As he drove away, Alice made her way into the living room to check on Jenny. "Hi, Jenny. I'm Alice. We met yesterday. How are you feeling? Is there anything you'd like?" Initially, Jenny refused to respond, her gaze locked onto the TV. Alice positioned herself in front of her, partially blocking her view. "Jenny, do you need anything?" she inquired once more. After a moment of silence, Jenny glared angrily into her eyes and spoke curtly. "Yes, I want to watch my show, and I want you to go away." Her voice grew more intense with each word. "All right, Jenny, that's perfectly fine. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. I'll be back later with some afternoon tea for you, okay?" There was no reply, but Jenny's angry gaze remained fixed on Alice. As she moved away, Jenny's attention returned to her screen, as if the confrontation had never occurred. Alice was well aware that Jenny would need some time to adapt. After all, it was a huge adjustment to have to depend on a stranger for her daily needs. After an hour or so, she prepared afternoon tea, arranged it on a tray, and carried it into the living room. As she entered, she had a fleeting impression that the TV channel changed. Assuming that she had imagined it, she decided to double-check. "Here is your coffee, Jenny, just the way you like it. White with 1 sugar and some of your lovely homemade cookies. Would you like to try a different channel on the television?" Again, there was no acknowledgement of her question, but Alice persisted. "Jenny?" Jenny turned to give her an intense glare and, through gritted teeth, she replied, "Look, lady, I don't like any other shows but this one. I hate those cookies, and I have 2 sugars in my coffee, not 1. Now, go away." Alice felt perplexed, but she complied with Jenny's request and returned to the kitchen. She was generally good at remembering details like that, and she was sure Greg would have corrected her if she had made an error. She had also noticed that the remote, now beside Jenny on the couch, had been previously on the TV. As she contemplated all of this, she heard music coming from the living room. Alice decided to investigate without alerting Jenny to her presence. Sure enough, a different channel was selected, and Judy Garland was singing. An old black and white film that was definitely not the same program as before. Once the song concluded, she silently watched as Jenny flicked channels, going from one to another. She paused for a moment to enjoy a comedy skit from I Love Lucy, and burst into fits of laughter as she watched. After the skit was done, she continued to scan through the channels as before. Alice noted how unusual it was for a dementia patient at this advanced stage to operate the remote with such proficiency, let alone display so many appropriate emotions and comprehension of what she was watching. Nevertheless, she considered the possibility of heightened lucidity. With this in mind, she decided to conduct a little experiment. She waited until Jenny became engrossed in another program, and right in the midst of her laughter, she entered the room suddenly. "Can I take your plates?" Jenny immediately switched back to her original show, her expression reverting back to the same non-reactive state she had displayed earlier. Interesting, Alice contemplated silently to herself. While she cleared the now empty dishes from the unsatisfactory afternoon tea, she weighed the decision of whether to share her observations with Greg. Ultimately, she concluded that, for the moment, it was too early to form judgments. Chapter 4. Suspicion. Alice was at the clothes line when Greg returned. He went straight inside to check on Jenny. "I'm back, my love. How are you? Do you need anything?" he asked. "Where were you? I looked everywhere, and I couldn't find you. I couldn't find anyone. My show was finished, and I was all alone for hours. Where have you been, Greg?" Jenny's voice carried panic and distress as she shared her concerns, leaving Greg perplexed. How could Jenny think she was all alone? Surely Alice had been checking on her. But where was she? He wondered to himself. After comforting Jenny, he set out to find Alice. As he entered the kitchen, Alice returned with a stack of folded laundry. "Hi, Greg," she greeted with a smile. "Did you have a good afternoon?" But Greg was noticeably agitated. "Jenny is really upset, Alice. She just told me that she has been alone and searching for me." "Oh no, Greg. I can assure you, Jenny hasn't been wandering at all. She has been watching the television for hours, and I've been checking in on her constantly. The only time she left the living room was for a bathroom break, which I accompanied her to," Alice explained. "Not once did she ask me where you were. She seemed content with the television. I just stepped out to grab the laundry, and that's the only time I was out of earshot." Greg felt somewhat calmer after hearing Alice's explanation. "There were a few things I wanted to ask you, though, if that's all right," she continued. "Just to confirm, is Jenny still able to control the TV all right?" "No, sadly. I have to put her show on as the remote is too complex for her now. Sometimes I wonder why she wants to watch it anyway. She just sits there and never reacts to anything that happens. So she never laughs at anything funny or gets upset with sad plot lines." "Nope, I do though, but not my Jen." "I'm really sorry to hear that, Greg. It must be so challenging for you. Just one more thing though. How does Jenny prefer her coffee?" "White with 1 sugar, same as it's always been. And she just loves those damned cookies. I always have to make sure we don't run out or it's a major catastrophe." "Yes, I completely understand, Greg. Structure is crucial when you're caring for a loved one with dementia. Rest assured, I kept a watchful eye on Jenny this afternoon. Even though she hasn't quite warmed up to me yet, I'm willing to continue working with both of you and help in any way I can," Alice assured. When Alice graced Greg with one of her beautiful smiles, he couldn't help but blush ever so slightly. "Well, I really appreciate the extra time to myself, but it doesn't make me feel any less guilty about it," he admitted, his voice tinged with shame. "Oh, Greg, of course you would feel that way. But there's absolutely nothing to be guilty about. We're not doing anything wrong, and in the end, it will only strengthen your relationship," Alice reassured him. As the two engaged in a quiet conversation, they remained unaware that they now had an audience of one. Jenny had followed Greg into the kitchen and was lurking just out of sight, listening and watching from the shadows. She observed as Alice gently placed her hand on Greg's shoulder and consoled him, reassuring him that he shouldn't feel ashamed of his feelings. "It's always best to share your burdens." "Burden?" Jenny fixated on that painful word instantly. "They think I'm a burden," she thought to herself. In Jenny's mind, the conversation morphed into a "we hate Jenny the burden" session. She now understood why she disliked this woman so much. She believed that Alice was out to steal Greg from her and relieve him of the burden of a wife. There was no time to waste. Jenny knew she had to make this intruder disappear, and quickly. She returned to her lounge to begin devising a plan. Greg and Alice finalized their conversation by fine-tuning a timetable that would best accommodate Jenny's needs. Afterwards, Alice headed in to say goodbye. "It was lovely to see you again, Jenny," she said pleasantly. Jenny fixed on Alice with a hateful and jealous glare, making her feel self-conscious and uncomfortable. "I really enjoyed being here with you this afternoon," she continued, but still received no acknowledgement. As Greg's footsteps reverberated from the hallway toward them, Jenny suddenly returned to her expressionless focus on the TV. "All set to go, Alice. I will see you out," Greg said as he entered the room. Somewhat taken aback by Jenny's sudden change in demeanor, Alice hesitated for a moment before nodding to Greg and making her way to the exit. On her drive home, Alice found herself unable to shake her curiosity about Jenny's conduct throughout the day. It wasn't just the emotional outbursts aimed at her or the reactions to the television, but also the incident with the coffee and cookies. The look of intense hatred she had witnessed from Jenny when Greg wasn't looking left a lasting impression. These behaviors were unlike anything she had encountered in her numerous interactions with dementia clients in the past. Nevertheless, Alice hoped that things would improve during her next visit. Greg felt more relaxed that evening than he had in a long time. His afternoon with longtime friend Colin had gone so well that they had already made plans for a bowling session with a few more friends at the end of the week. With the schedule discussed with Alice, the only thing left was to confirm the day, a step he decided to take after Jenny was settled in bed. Greg and Jenny shared a quiet, uneventful evening meal, followed by a few chapters of their latest audiobook. Then, as was customary, Greg helped his wife with zippers and buttons until she was ready to slip under the covers. "I will be back shortly, my love," he assured her. She gazed at him with a confused expression. "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I just have to make a quick phone call, and then I'll be coming to bed. I promise." He planted a kiss on her cheek and headed to the downstairs office. Jenny listened as the stairs creaked with Greg's descent, and when the sounds ceased, she sprang out of bed and tiptoed to the landing at the top. From that vantage point, she could hear Greg's side of the conversation. "Yeah, it was a great afternoon. I haven't felt that calm in a long time. No, I didn't tell Jen because I didn't want to upset her. Yes, it was such a great suggestion from Ellie that we get together. For sure. So anyway, I just called to let you know that Friday is a goer. Yes, I'm really looking forward to it as well. Perhaps we can grab a drink or two afterward." "Sounds great. No, I don't think I'll tell Jen until Friday. She'll probably just forget anyway. But this way, I'll only upset her once." "Sure thing. See you on Friday. Bye." As the call ended, Jenny hurried back to bed as quietly as possible, and when Greg returned, she pretended to be already asleep. As he settled in beside her and gradually drifted off, he could not have known the seething anger that was simmering within her. Her own flesh and blood, Ellie, seemed to be orchestrating this entire sinister scheme against her, sending this temptress into her family home to seduce her own father. How could she do such a thing? Friday, just 3 days away. Scarcely enough time to devise a plan to end this intrusion once and for all. And Ellie couldn't escape the consequences of her betrayal either. She too would have to face the repercussions. They all would. When morning arrived, Jenny remained in bed, adhering to her normal routine to avoid any hint of suspicion. Greg delivered her breakfast and then assisted with the morning regimen, showering, dressing, and preparing for the day. He managed each task either on her behalf or together with her, and she deliberately preserved her reliance on him, as he had grown accustomed to. While Greg lovingly attended to all these responsibilities, Jenny couldn't help but perceive ulterior motives behind every action. This was obviously all a cunning ruse to convince her that he still loved her, and nothing had come between them. But Alice was, and her own daughter had instigated the entire situation. While Jenny outwardly maintained her composure and appeared emotionless, turmoil raged within her. By Friday morning, she had a clear plan in her mind, and she knew precisely how it would unfold. During their afternoon coffee break, Greg felt it was the right time to discuss his plans for the evening. "Jen," he began, "do you remember the kind lady who spent some time with you the other day?" Jenny, who had been engrossed in nibbling on her homemade cookie, remained stoic. "Her name is Alice," Greg continued, "and she's coming to visit you again tonight." Jenny's lack of reaction persisted. "I have to step out for a while, but Alice will be here to take care of you," Greg explained. Suddenly, Jenny looked straight at him. Unnerved but calm, Greg continued. "Don't worry, my love," he reassured her. "It'll only be until 9:30, and then I'll be back to tuck you in, just like always." After a tense pause, Jenny finally spoke. "I'm not familiar with Alice," she stated. Greg offered a comforting reply, saying, "That's perfectly fine, Jen. You'll have a chance to get to know her, and she's here to lend a hand." "But I don't know her," Jenny repeated, before returning to her cookies and coffee. Jen was in her customary lounge position as Greg's bowling date approached. While he bustled around preparing, she observed his meticulous attention to detail in his grooming routine. She focused on the time he spent on his appearance, his clothing selection, his choice of aftershave, and the quantity he applied. The anticipation of the upcoming evening weighed on her, and she struggled to maintain her usual outwardly emotionless demeanor. When Alice arrived, it didn't escape notice how quickly Greg rushed to answer the door. "I'm delighted you could make it," he said in an oddly enthusiastic tone. "It's my pleasure, Greg," Alice replied. And there was that smile again, Greg noted to himself. The two were still smiling as they entered the living room. "Jen, you remember Alice?" Greg prompted. "Hi, Jenny. It's great to see you again. I'm really looking forward to spending some time with you this evening, and I've got a lovely meal planned for us," Alice said warmly. As Greg watched the interaction between his wife and her new caregiver, Jenny recognized the need to convey her approval of the situation. Otherwise, he might change his plans, which simply wouldn't do. She glanced at Alice and asked with a smile, "How about some cookies?" Alice was nearly overcome with joy at this warm response. Perhaps she was finally establishing a connection with Jenny. "Don't worry, Greg. We're going to get along famously." "Great. I should get going now, or I'll be late. I'll be back by 9:30. You have my number if you need anything. Have a pleasant evening, Jen." "See you soon, my love," Greg said. And with that, he departed. Chapter 5. Blood and Lies. Jenny sat there in astonishment. Greg hadn't even given her a farewell kiss. While she pondered this, she abruptly became aware of the persistent chatter of Alice. Despite the irritating and grating sound that pierced her thoughts, she understood that she needed to maintain her charade for a little longer. "Would you like to help me start on dinner, Jenny?" asked Alice. "I enjoy dinner," Jenny replied, following Alice's lead as they headed towards the kitchen. Throughout the evening, Jenny diligently adhered to instructions, and the two of them worked together to create a delightful meal, consisting of meatloaf with a vegetable bake and mini soufflés for dessert. Alice felt that a genuine connection had finally formed, and she was delighted to witness Jenny's positive interactions. As they quietly dined together, Jenny continued to grapple with her utensils, as she always did. She even allowed Alice to help her with cutting up some of the meatloaf. However, beneath the surface, she couldn't shake the discomfort of Greg's unceremonious departure without a kiss, especially in front of this new acquaintance. And she can cook too, Jenny thought bitterly. Her twisted emotions intensified her resentment toward this woman and her anger at her daughter and husband. But her plans for revenge would come to fruition soon, very soon. As 9:30 approached, it was time to set her plan into motion. If her husband could be characterized as anything, it was punctual. "I'm cold," Jenny remarked. "Are you cold, Jenny? We'll fix that right away. Just give me a moment. I'll find something to keep you warm," Alice responded. "My blanket," Jenny subtly hinted, pointing towards the staircase. "Upstairs bedroom, of course. I'll be back in a jiffy," Alice said before heading off to retrieve a blanket. Jenny watched intently, timing her next move with precision. As Alice ascended the stairs, Jenny positioned herself at the bottom. Once the bedroom light spilled out onto the top landing, she hurried stealthily to the top, avoiding every creaky floorboard, as if she was a cat stalking her prey. Once at the top, she slipped into the shadows of Ellie's unused bedroom and patiently waited. As Greg's car approached and turned into the driveway, Jenny observed in silence as Alice switched off the light and left the bedroom with the blanket. As Alice approached the staircase, Jenny emerged from the shadows just behind her and began to speak. "I'm not concerned about the blanket, Alice," she began. Alice let out a small shriek, startled by the sudden appearance. "Oh my God, you scared the hell out of me." "What's wrong, Jenny? I found your blanket for you," Alice said. Jenny could hear the rumble of Greg's engine cease as she continued. "I don't care about the blanket. What concerns me is your intrusion into my life. Everything was perfect. I made sure of that. I just can't fathom why Ellie would ruin it all by sending you here," Jenny stated in a soft but angry tone, making sure not to alert Greg, who could enter the house at any moment. "What are you talking about? I'm only here to help you," Alice reasoned, starting to back away. But Jenny continued her angry, twisted rant, gradually advancing towards Alice. "You're nothing but a ship in the night, a passing little pleasure cruise with your alluring lights and romantic promises. Do you truly believe I'd let you get away with stealing him from me? I've altered his will in the past, and I could do it again if I wished. Yet, I'm just so bored, you see. I can't be bothered with him anymore. The thing is, if he can't be mine, then he can't belong to anyone. It's okay, Jenny. I think there may be a little confusion. Let me help you." Alice tried desperately to defuse the situation, but Jenny wanted no part of it. "You think I'm confused? I have never been more clear. You see, when Greg initially wanted to sell this house and travel around, I thought it would bring us closer. Instead, it provided him more opportunities to pursue every damned female he came across. I knew that his ego boosting had to come to an end, so I decided to set fire to that ridiculous RV. But he came back just a few minutes too soon, so I had to think quickly. Faking dementia is remarkably simple, you know. It made Greg completely focused to taking care of me, and it explained everything perfectly. Not even the doctors could tell. Not even Greg or Ellie. Not even you. You don't have dementia?" Alice stammered, realizing in terror. Jenny may not be suffering from dementia, but she was clearly unhinged. Just then, Greg's keys fell to the ground, and Jenny knew that the time had come. "It will be perfect, Alice. Ellie will pay for her betrayal by caring for me, and Greg will be behind bars." "In jail?" Alice questioned. "For what?" "For your murder, of course." And with that, Jenny surged at Alice with every ounce of strength she could summon. Alice screamed as she tumbled backwards, and just as Greg entered the living room, he was met by the horrific sight of her falling down the stairs and landing in a crumpled, bloodied heap at the bottom. "Oh my God!" he shouted as he rushed to her aid. As he gently turned her over, her blood covered his hands and shirt, and among her numerous injuries, he could see that her neck was badly injured. Unable to find a pulse in his panic, Greg feared the worst. His focus then shifted to the concern that Jenny was now alone somewhere in the house. "Jenny? Jenny? Where are you?" he called out, while scouring all the downstairs rooms. Finding no trace of her, he mustered the courage to continue his search on the second floor, despite the gruesome scene at the base of the stairs. As he entered the bedroom, he could hear the sound of the shower running. Jenny acted startled as he barged into the bathroom, calling out her name. "Jenny, Jenny, something awful has happened. Are you all right?" "I'm in a shower," she replied with a bewildered, innocent look. "Yes, you are, my love. Let's get you out," Greg said with a wave of relief washing over him. He helped Jenny in drying off and getting dressed before contacting the police. Upon their arrival at the grim scene, where Greg was covered in blood and Jenny appeared disoriented, the only conceivable conclusion was reached. Evidence revealed bruising consistent with Alice being violently pushed, and Greg's alibi only confirmed that he had enough time to leave the bowling alley and return home, with a window of opportunity to commit this murderous act. Chapter 6. The Arrangement. As the investigation and subsequent trial unfolded, Jenny was relocated to live with her daughter Ellie. This arrangement worked out well, as Ellie was pursuing a degree in criminal justice, making it relatively straightforward for her to transition to online studies when Jenny moved in. For the next 4 years following Greg's conviction, Jenny relished in her ability to manipulate and influence Ellie whenever the chance presented itself. It was her method of exacting revenge, and she subjected her unfortunate daughter to her every twisted desire. However, one morning, Jenny noticed that Ellie was dedicating more time than usual to her appearance. When Ellie finally emerged from her bedroom, she was dressed in a smart navy skirt and suit jacket, her hair neatly arranged in a braided bun. She placed her bag on the coffee table and sat down next to Jenny to explain. "Mom, I have something to share with you. I've finally completed all my studies, and today marks the start of my first job. So unfortunately, there will have to be some changes. I'll be working part-time, which also means I won't be here to take care of you. The good news is that I've found a very nice young man who can assist you while I'm away." Suddenly, Jenny's world was once again being upended. "No, I won't." She began to react impulsively, but caught herself. "You won't what, Mom?" Ellie asked, taken aback by her sudden, unfinished outburst. Just then, there was a knock at the door, and Ellie got up to answer it. "That must be him now, Mom. He's really nice, and not bad-looking either. He's a trained nurse, and I believe you're going to like him." Jenny listened closely to their interaction, just out of her view. It was evident that her daughter had a connection with this man, and there was a genuine risk that a relationship might develop between them, which simply wouldn't do. "Mom, I want you to meet David. He will be taking care of you while I'm at work." It's a pleasure to meet you, Jenny. Ellie has told me so much about you that I feel like I know you already, he remarked as he extended his hand to her. How nauseating. He's even more deceitful than that dreadful Alice woman, Jenny thought to herself as she shook David's hand. Have a great day, Mum. When I get home, I will tell you all about my new job, Ellie said as she grabbed her bag and headed to the door. As David saw Ellie off, they engaged in a hushed conversation which Jenny closely monitored. She noticed the way David's voice deepened as he leaned in to speak to her. The body language indicated a clear connection, and Jenny sensed that David might have ulterior motives for taking this job. Her mind swirled with anger and jealousy that her daughter would even consider this man. A nurse? In Jenny's view, her daughter deserved someone at least as prestigious as a doctor. As Ellie left for work, David returned his attention to Jenny. Would you like me to make you some coffee? He offered pleasantly. Ellie mentioned you take it with milk and 1 sugar, and it looks like she baked some lovely cookies for you too. Jenny sat motionless, refusing to acknowledge David's presence. Undeterred, David continued his efforts. Or maybe you'd prefer the TV on. I imagine you have a favorite program you enjoy. At this, Jenny abruptly shifted her demeanor and turned to fix David with a harsh, unwelcoming glare. Through gritted teeth, she replied, Listen, boy, I don't watch TV until my afternoon show. I detest cookies, and I take 2 sugars, not 1. Now, go away. David recoiled slightly, surprised by the sudden venom in Jenny's voice and the clarity of her words. He paused, weighing how to respond. With practiced patience, he maintained a calm, gentle tone. My apologies, Jenny. Let's start fresh. Can I prepare your coffee just how you like it? And please, feel free to let me know if you need anything at all. As David moved unhurriedly to the kitchen, Jenny's glare followed him every step of the way. She made note of his muscular arms, visible in his short-sleeved polo shirt. Undoubtedly, he was stronger than her diminutive frame. She would need to find a clever means of eliminating his bothersome presence. For now, Jenny held her tongue, but her mind churned with resentment over this new intruder in her carefully managed world. Chapter 7. Reckoning. Over the next few days, Jenny played her part well in pretending to warm to David. She struggled to contain her deep resentment, but allowed fleeting moments of polite interaction while observing him closely. During this time, she made careful note each evening when Ellie returned home from work. Every day it was consistent. The front door would open at 6:14 p.m. David noticed several instances when Jenny's dementia symptoms appeared to inexplicably fade. Her confusion would suddenly clear, only to return moments later when she caught his gaze upon her. By Thursday afternoon, Jenny had grown irritable from maintaining her facade. Shortly after 4 p.m., she abruptly barked at David. Butterscotch pudding. I need more now. David was just returning the vacuum to the closet. He turned and replied, I wasn't aware we were out. Let me check the fridge. As David stepped toward the kitchen, Jenny cut him off. Don't bother, you imbecile. We finished it off. Weren't you paying any attention? She glowered at him. Must I spell everything out? Go and fetch me more this instant. Jenny refused to be placated or reasoned with for the next 2 hours, growing more adamant by the minute. Finally, after he could no longer bear her ever-growingly angry outbursts, David raised his hands submissively. It's all right, Jenny. No need to distress yourself. I'll go straight away and return with your pudding." The instant the front door clicked shut, Jenny bolted upstairs with sudden clarity of movement. She started the shower running hot at full force, steam rapidly fogging the mirrors. In a bout of inspiration, Jenny emptied the remainder of the conditioner bottle, causing the tiled floor to become perilously slick. Ever so carefully, she arranged herself, splayed out on her back, arm twisted at an odd angle, head partially under the still cascading water. The scene was staged. Right on schedule at 6:14, Jenny heard the front door open, followed by Ellie's customary greeting call. When no reply came, Ellie's voice rang out more urgently. "Mom? David?" The anxious footsteps grew faster up the stairs, until Ellie's silhouette appeared through the haze at the bathroom entrance. Ellie's shriek pierced the steam-filled air. "Mom! Oh my God! Mom!" She rushed to Jenny's motionless side, kneeling on the slick floor. Jenny let out an anguished moan as Ellie gently lifted her mother's head from the cascading water. "What happened?" Ellie cried, frantic eyes scanning over Jenny's contorted body. "Can you hear me?" Jenny allowed her eyelids to flutter ever so slightly before they closed again. Panicked, Ellie shouted louder, "Mom, open your eyes! What happened? Where is David?" When no response came, Ellie propped her mother against the wall. She winced at the sight of red scalded skin spreading down Jenny's shoulder. Ellie leapt up to grab towels and twist off the scalding water. "Hold on, Mom. I'm right here. Just stay with me," Ellie pleaded. As she wrapped the towels securely around her mother, David suddenly burst through the bathroom doorway, grocery bags tumbling from his grip. Struggling to process the nightmarish sight before him, David rushed forward, gingerly helping support Jenny's head while checking her vitals. "What the hell happened?" Ellie shrieked, glaring viciously at David. I just stepped out for a moment to get her pudding," he stammered awkwardly. His eyes drifted to the discarded grocery bag in the doorway as Ellie cut him off sharply. "You left an unstable dementia patient on her own to go shopping? Are you completely incompetent?" She turned her attention back to Jenny, grabbing another towel to cushion beneath her mother's limp body. After emergency services arrived and checked Jenny for injuries, they determined miraculously that she had no serious harm, just some minor burns. As the paramedics prepared to depart, Ellie turned on David, anger still flashing in her eyes. In hushed but heated tones on the front step, Ellie chastised him. "This is completely unacceptable. I trusted you to care for her. Leaving her alone with the shower running, she could have died." David held up defensive hands. "You know, I would never intentionally put her in danger. She demanded I go out, no matter how much I refused. I was only gone 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, my unstable mother ended up twisted on the bathroom floor," Ellie shot back, voice rising. Around the corner, Jenny lurked just out of view, peering at them with resentment burning inside at seeing the two standing so close. She strained to hear Ellie's biting whispers and David's flustered excuses until footsteps signaled the paramedics' departure. As Ellie threatened to report David for his negligence, a slow, devious smile spread across Jenny's face. Her plot had worked flawlessly. Quickly as possible, she scuttled back to the couch before being discovered, beaming with pride over her evening's vindictive accomplishment. Over the next week, Jenny played the part of the feeble victim, milking constant attention from Ellie and David. But internally, her resentment toward them both festered. Jenny knew she needed to eliminate David swiftly. She decided that due to David being so fit and strong, she would have no alternative but to attack him from behind. And a knife would be her chosen murder weapon. As she readied everything for her terrible, heinous crime, Jenny distracted Ellie by asking various unrelated, scattered questions while she was preparing dinner. She carefully stowed away one of the kitchen knives Ellie was using. With Ellie's prints now lingering on the handle, she added it to her hidden murder kit behind some old, unused books in her bedroom. She sharpened the blade's edge daily, even tempting herself to test it on her skin, just enough to draw a single drop, watching it curve down her delicate wrist. David always tidied up before Ellie arrived home from work, so in a few days' time, Jenny would shuffle quietly toward the kitchen, precisely as she heard her daughter's car pull up. Gripping the blade, Jenny would attack David from behind when he least expected it. While eyeing the vivid blood she envisioned spilling forth from David's limp body, she would quickly conceal the gloves, now soaked in evidence, securely in plastic at the back of the freezer. Then she would need to cry hysterically when Ellie entered the bloody scene, playing the part of helpless dementia patient. Planting the soiled murder weapon under David's collapsed body would seal Ellie's guilt. On the fateful night, Jenny waited quietly outside the kitchen. Grasping the sharpened blade she held patiently in her slim, gloved hands. She paused to listen for sounds of running water and clinking plates. As David hummed lightly, Jenny raised the glinting knife. She steadied her racing heart, preparing to lunge with all her strength and sever his spine, when she heard the sudden crunch of tires slowing outside, signaling Ellie had returned home. Just as Jenny gripped the knife tighter, the front door crashed open. "Police! Drop your weapon!" Officers swarmed in with guns aimed directly at a stunned, wide-eyed Jenny. Chapter 8. Twisted. Jenny sits rigidly, handcuffed alone inside the stark white interrogation room. Her venomous gaze fixates on the mirrored glass, wondering who might be observing. When the door suddenly opens, Jenny instinctively brightens at the sight of her husband, Greg, entering. "Oh, my darling, you don't know the horrors I've endured," she exclaims, straining against her bonds, seeking comfort. "Cut the theatrics, Jenny," Greg replies coolly, taking the seat opposite her. "We have a lot to discuss." Greg proceeds to detail the gradual unraveling of her sinister schemes, framing him for poor Alice's murder years ago, the dear woman just trying to help. "That wretched temptress had it coming," Jenny hisses. Greg also reveals David's hidden wires and cameras capturing her devious ploys. "You mean David the imposter?" Jenny snaps. "No, David the undercover officer," Greg explains, who Ellie contacted once she completed her degree in criminal justice. "Our brave, beautiful daughter devoted years to exposing your deceitful charade of claimed dementia." Jenny slumps back, the web of lies crumbling around her shattered facade of helplessness. "I just wanted to see you one last time, Jen, to cement in my own mind what a horrible monster you truly are," Greg says as he stands to leave. Just as he is walking towards the exit, the door opens and David, along with 2 other police officers, enter. As Greg reaches the door and holds it open, Jenny hears a familiar voice echoing from the outside corridor. and it drills into her twisted brain like a jackhammer. Greg turns back to lock eyes with her one more time. A slender figure and striking green eyes, with slightly graying auburn hair, becomes visible in the doorway, seated in a wheelchair. Jenny's mouth drops open, but only garbled wailing emerges. "You remember my fiancée Alice, don't you, dear?"